What parent wouldn't want a confident child? What employer wouldn't want a confident worker? What country wouldn't want a confident leader? Confidence is a valued asset, but according to my next guest, perhaps overvalued. I'm joined now by Suzanne Doyle-Morris, author of The Con Job, Getting Ahead with Competence in a World Obsessed with Confidence. Good morning to you, Suzanne.
Good morning, Kay.
Good morning. Confidence, for as long as I can remember, has been almost the most valued commodity. Quality is the right word, isn't it? I can remember my history teacher, and that's not yesterday, I can tell you, saying, stand up tall, head straight, shoulders back, wherever you want to go, look as if you're meant to be there and nobody's going to challenge you. So are we changing?
It's very seductive. It's very seductive, confidence is. But my concern is that we get distracted by it, when actually I want us to be really championing and promoting, more specifically, people who are just blooming good at their job. And I can even see this playing out in the news right now. I mean, it's very funny to me. The book was supposed to come out a few months ago during COVID, but what was interesting is the news cycle, just for me, highlighted what was going on, which was that we've got global leaders saying, oh, we've got this isn't going to be a big deal, this is variation on a cold. So confident leaders saying that this was nothing to worry about. And then we didn't, until it meant that, like workplaces everywhere, competent people had to kind of just clean up the mess. So that's your nurses, your delivery workers, your teachers, people that we don't necessarily praise for confidence, but we don't need to, because they are just good at their job, and that's what makes them so valuable to us.
Sure, but then is there maybe also in that we have begun to lose what we mean by confidence? Because I get what you're saying, and we don't need to name names, but, in terms of people perhaps not appreciating the severity of the situation and bluffing their way through it. I mean, confidence isn't necessarily bluffing, is it?
No, it's definitely not. But what I find is that confidence, a confidence that takes you past imposter syndrome, a confidence that you can rely on, is actually, it's something that's more just a byproduct of being really good at your job. But I think what I find is that people come to the work that I do with them, and too frequently thinking it's the end game. Like it's a panacea under which all the good stuff in life lives. So if I have just more confidence, then the rest of my life will be great. And that's a falsehood. But what's more concerning is that it actually means we judge people very differently based on how and if they show confidence. So for me, it's a panacea, when really confidence is something that should fluctuate. Having a high level of confidence is not something I even want you to have, really. I want you to have confidence in the things you are very good at, because then I can rely on you.
Do you think, and I think you do go into this in your book as well, in terms of the presentation of confidence, that it comes from a very particular perspective?
Yeah. So for me, I go into organizations, and the first time I started noticing this, I've got to tell you, confidence is the number one thing that people say that they want when they start working with someone like myself, who, executive coaches, I speak. But what I'm hearing when I ask them a little bit more about what that confidence gives them, what they're really meaning is, I want to be heard in meetings, I want my ideas to get recognized, and I want to get ahead. So for them, that sense of confidence will give them all of those things. But actually, the crazy thing is, I do help my clients get promotions, but I never work on their confidence, not specifically. I work on their skills, their competence in managing their stakeholders, managing their image, managing essentially the way they portray and work with other people. Far better, portray themselves and the work that they do that adds value to the organization. So for me, that is, that's the real crux of it. But we don't really talk about that competence. It's really, it seems dead boring. And in this current, this current world we're living in, and actually an issue that I think employers will have to be thinking about, the old phrase, which I love, but actually is deadly unsexy, which is to say somebody's a safe pair of hands. Nobody wants to be that safe pair of hands, but actually that's what we kind of need more of in society. Because I feel like we're seeing the effects of too many people who kind of overpromise but under-deliver.
Do you think we've come to this position over a period of time, potentially from a very well-meaning start, but it might have meandered off into the wrong direction?
It has. So I will tell you I won't bore you with too much history, but actually the 15th century Latin definition of confidence was only about the trust you could earn from your actions. You could never display confidence. It wasn't something you could show to other people. And that was what's so interesting, was that when I interviewed people for this book, and I talked to about 40 different leaders from 12 different countries, and I asked them, what does this look like to you? It was all about the behaviors ones project. But actually, that's not even where it started. Confidence was only something you could earn. It wasn't something you could show off, like the speaking up or taking charge or driving points home. Those are things that people now think of as confident behaviors. But the point that I make in the book is those are also behaviors that we really reward, but we reward them primarily in certain groups of people. That is what I call the status quo. Those are the people who are in charge, certainly in the organizations where I tend to work, which are, tend to be white, well-off men who speak English as their native language and work in that field, who have no disabilities. And when they show those behaviors, that speaking up, that leading from the front, we think of them as very confident, as having gravitas, as having a great presence. However, what I found when I was doing the research, but also talking to people, was that when we see people who don't fit those status quo definitions, yet they show those behaviors, we judge them very harshly. So women who show those same behaviors, when they speak up and they're forthright, they're described as being bolshy or brazen or strident or, how long do you have? I got a million words for the ways we describe women. But equally, when we go to even thinking about Black Lives Matter, when people who are from Black backgrounds show these same behaviors, we describe them as being angry, as being uppity, as being difficult. I see that. You'll probably notice from my accent, though sure. I live in Scotland and have done for over a decade. I'm from the U.S. originally, and I saw this a lot with Latinx communities, people from Latin American backgrounds. We describe them as fiery. When they show confidence, and spicy. These are really funny ways that we describe people who are, in effect, often showing the same behaviors, but we almost see them as taking liberties because they're not who we expect to be confident. And for me, that's the total irony, is that we tell everybody, oh, just build your confidence. That's the key to success. But we reward very differently based on who those people are, and we try to silence them when we're not comfortable in the ways they show it.
Yeah, and once you get onto that territory, then it opens up whole questions about the establishment, the patriarchy, etc., etc. So, so what's the key message then that you want to deliver with your book?
So for me, I would really like us to redefine confidence so that works for a wider range of people, because the other thing is I don't even think our current definitions of kind of leading from the front confidence even work that well for men. Because actually, I think we've got huge issues with the way we describe it, so much so that does manning up. So if you tell somebody to man up or grow a pair, that's very much about be confident. But when we say somebody doesn't have those qualities, we call them, well, a part of this anatomy that you and I no doubt both share. And that is almost having the lack of confidence. So I really want us to redefine the way we think about confidence, and the value it has. And I also want for us to really start to not get too distracted by our own lack of confidence, because frankly, I share it too. Everybody has a lack of confidence at times. But I think of that as almost like a secret superpower, because it helps remind you what you need to get better at. I actually worry about the people who say, yeah, I've got this. Because often they're the bluffers, the bolters, those are the people that I worry about.
Yeah, well, and we have plenty examples to remind ourselves.
Certainly.
Listen, thanks very much, Suzanne. That certainly gives a lot of food for thought. And as I say, I'm sure people will have all sorts of visual images in their head listening to that conversation. Dr. Suzanne Doyle-Morris, author of The Con Job: Getting Ahead with Competence in a World Obsessed with Confidence.